students, this is Anupam Sharma. Welcome to my YouTube channel English Tips by Anupam Sharma. Our today's lesson is from the Diary of Anne Frank, Lesson 4, Class 10, from our English reader, First Flight. Dear students, do you keep a diary? A diary is a book with a separate space or page for each day, in which you write down your thoughts and feelings or what has happened on that particular day. Diary writing is one of the best ways to practice writing. You do not have to think up or imagine what to write about. You only have to find words to write about what has happened. Make a diary. Perhaps you could also write a diary entry describing what happened on the previous day and share it with us in the comment box. Try and make it amusing and interesting. Now you know what a diary is and how to keep one. Use the following hints to write your diary. Though your diary is very private, write as if you are writing for someone else. Present your thoughts in a convincing manner. Use words that convey your feelings and words that paint pictures for the reader. Be brief. Dear students, now let us learn about some typical features of diary language, such as subjectless sentences. You can write sentences like got up late in the morning, which has no subject. Second, sentence fragments without subjects or verbs like too bad, boring, not good. 3. Contracted forms. They are I have, can't, didn't, etc. And the last one is everyday expressions which people use in speech. Remember not to use such language in more formal kinds of writing. Now, as you know what a diary is and how to keep a diary, let's begin our lesson 4 from the Diary of Anne Frank, written by Anne Frank herself. Anneliese Marie Anne Frank, from 12 June 1929 to February-March 1945, was a German-born Jewish girl who wrote while in hiding with her family and 4 friends in Amsterdam during the German occupation of the Netherlands in World War II. Her family had moved to Amsterdam after the Nazis gained power in Germany, but were trapped when the Nazi occupation extended into the Netherlands. Anne Frank, who is the writer of this diary, was born on June 12, 1929. She died early March 1945. She was born in Frankfurt, Germany, where she and her family lived until 1933. This diary was written by Anne Frank during World War II, when the family was forced to move from Germany to Netherlands because of Nazis' occupation of Germany. As persecutions against the Jewish population increased, the family went into hiding in July 1942 in hidden rooms in her father Otto Frank's office building. After 2 years in hiding, the group was betrayed and transported to the concentration camp system, where Anne died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen within days of her sister Margot Frank. Persecution means hostility and ill treatment, especially because of race or political or religious beliefs. Because of increased oppression and ill treatment against Jewish population, the family of Anne Frank had to go and live in hiding in July 1942 in hidden rooms in her father Otto Frank's office building. And this is the rear view of the building. Over here, after 2 years in hiding, Anne Frank and her family were found out and they were sent to the concentration camp. And there, this girl Anne Frank died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen. And her sister Margot Frank also died a few days before her death. Her father, Otto, the only survivor of the group, returned to Amsterdam after the war ended to find that her diary had been saved. Convinced that it was a unique record, he took action to have it published in English under the name The Diary of a Young Girl. Out of 8 people who went in hiding in that building, only one person survived, and that was Anne Frank's father, Otto Frank. When the war ended, Otto Frank returned to Amsterdam, and there he found this diary of Anne Frank, and he was convinced that it was a unique record. Why it was a unique record? Because it consisted of the feelings of a young girl during this war period. So, he took the initiative and published this diary in English under the name of The Diary of a Young Girl. The diary was given to Anne Frank for her 13th birthday and chronicles the events of her life from 12 June 1942 until its final entry of 1 August 1944. It was eventually translated from its original Dutch into many languages and became one of the world's most widely read books. The diary was given to Anne Frank for her 13th birthday by her father, and it was originally written in Dutch language. And it chronicles the events. It writes the events of the life of Anne Frank from 12 June 1942 to 1 August 1944. There have also been several films, television and theatrical productions, and even an opera based on the diary. Described as the work of a mature and insightful mind, the diary provides an intimate examination of daily life under Nazi occupation. Anne Frank has become one of the most renowned and discussed of the Holocaust victims. This diary of Anne Frank became so famous that there are many films, television and theatrical productions, and even opera based on this diary. And it is considered that it is a work of very mature mind. And do you know why this diary became so famous? It is because Anne Frank was one of the Holocaust victims. And what is Holocaust? Holocaust is the destruction or slaughter on a mass scale during World War II. This lesson from the diary of Anne Frank is divided into 3 parts or 3 chunks. Let's begin with part 1 for its complete explanation. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing, and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. Difficult word over here is musings, that is, a period of reflection or thought. Anne feels that it is strange and unusual for her to write in a diary because it was the first time she was doing it. She thinks that no one would be interested in reading about a young school-going girl's past. Even she herself will not be interested in reading it. But then she decides to write the diary because there were a lot of thoughts that had been holding on to, and she needed to get them off her mind. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. I finally stayed where I was, brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience. And since I am not planning to let anyone else read this stiff-backed notebook, grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. Now I am back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. Difficult words are listless, with no energy or interest. Second is brooding, that is, engaged in or showing deep thought about something that makes one sad, angry, or worried. Prompted, provoke. One day, Anne was feeling more sad and confused than usual. She could not even decide whether to go out or stay at home at that time. She finally decided to stay at home, being depressed. She thought that paper had more patience and decided to write everything that came in her mind. And then comes back to the point that she thought of beginning to write because she is lonely and has no friend to talk to. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. And I am not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a family, loving aunts, and a good home. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything except my one true friend. Confide. To tell personal things privately to a person that one trusts. And then goes on explaining the need for a friend. She feels that no one is going to believe that a young girl like her is so alone, which practically she is not, because she has a loving family near about 30 people that can be called friends. Loving aunts and a good place to stay. This depicts a clear picture of a happy family, but the one thing that lacks in her life is the presence of a true friend with whom she can share everything. All I think about when I am with friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault, and that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are. And unfortunately, they are not liable to change. This is why I have started the diary. Anne writes that she has a good time with friends. Despite trying hard, they are unable to get closer. She feels that it is she who is not able to trust anyone with her private stuff. She feels that the current situation cannot be changed, and thus she needs to write her feelings in the diary. To enhance the image of this long-awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do, but I want the diary to be my friend, and I am going to call this friend Kitty. Difficult word is enhance, that is, intensify, increase, or further improve the quality, value, or extent of. Usually, when someone is writing a diary, they list down all the facts about them in a formal manner, which Anne does not want to do. This is because this diary is her friend, and thus she decides to name the diary as Kitty. So dear students, with this we have finished chunk 1 of our lesson from the diary of Anne Frank. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe this channel.